Good morning, students. In continuation, as part 2 of our lesson, The Merchant of Venice, we would begin from where we left. That is the last paragraph, in fact, the last two lines of page 57 onwards. Let's begin straight away, but before that, an overview. We had read in the last part of page 57 that Antonio and Bassanio went together to borrow 3,000 ducats from Shylock, the money lender, so that Bassanio could win over the rich lady of Belmont, Portia. Why couldn't the rich merchant Antonio provide his beloved friend with the required money? Because Antonio confesses that he has no ready cash and he must borrow money in order to furnish Bassanio to win Portia. Now, this picture is of Bassanio, you can see there. So, we can observe a few things here from what we have already read. Number one, Antonio is a wealthy merchant with a kind heart. He has many friends and he is admired by the Venetian society. He is very generous to his friend Bassanio and loves him with a truly noble affection. And he is ready to go to any extent and willingly offers his good credit standing to help his bosom or best friend Bassanio to go to Belmont to win Portia. Now about Bassanio. Our first impression about Bassanio is not in his favor, for he has wasted all his resources by living extravagantly. He comes to Antonio to borrow some money from him. He seems to be a fortune hunter as he wants to win the wealthy Portia of Belmont and thus improve his financial situation. Now, about both these men, we see that Antonio has much affection for Bassanio and Bassanio loves him too. Now, about Shylock, what have we read? That Shylock is a rich Jew and a money lender who lends money on high rates of interest and so is hated by the people of Venice. So, what else do we observe from page 57? That the action in the story or the play begins when Antonio and Bassanio set off to raise a loan. And with this, we are also introduced to the then commercial city of Venice. So we come to see that the city of Venice is there, and we see here's the city of Venice, the map of the real Venice. You can see it's a small city just near the, it's a port city. So it's near the sea, the mouth of the sea. And then we see, of course, Venice, as you see in autumn with the Rialto Bridge in the background. So here's the Rialto Bridge that you can see. This is the bridge. So now a World Heritage Site this is. And you can see the canals or the gondola rides. So these are the boats called gondolas there. And Venice is, of course, a city of canals and a lot of water, channels are there. So you can see it in this picture. So, we are introduced to this commercial city of Venice with its sea, wealth, merchants, credit, is introduced with reality, showing Shakespeare's perfect knowledge of the place. Now, and what is the amount of money that Bassanio needs? He needs 3,000 ducats. So you can see here, this is the coin, the ducat or the Venetian ducat. So what is a ducat then? A ducat literally means a coin minted by the duke, therefore a ducat. But the reference here is the Venetian ducat. They were both gold and silver. Now this one is a gold one. You can see this is a gold ducat. And in Shakespeare's days, 4 ducats were worth about £1. So this is what we have come to know from the book. So the last line of page 57 says 3,000 ducats upon any interest Shylock should require to be paid. This is what Antonio was willing to pay. So he had no doubts about giving in on any rate that Shylock would have demanded. And then we turn over to page 58. So we move on to the next page, page 58, where we continue to read from there. So that is, Antonio was ready to pay any rate, and let's read further. So we have here, out of the merchandise contained in his ships at sea. So this was the part where we talked about that he is in lieu of, or this is the guarantee that Antonio's ships would return with laden with merchandise as against the money he is going to take. So on this, Shylock thought within himself, and Shylock thought within himself, I can once catch him on the hip. Now, here's something interesting. Now, this whole paragraph that we are going to read, and the next that we'll be reading, this whole paragraph that you have on page 58 is a big paragraph, and this is called a soliloquy. That is, it's what we call a person in a drama, or on stage, a person, a character. He goes on talking to himself. So how would it be shown? So that's called a soliloquy. So here we see the long speech by characters when alone on stage. So as a person alone on stage talking to himself, and this is what Shylock is doing when he sees Antonio and Bassanio coming up the real steps of the Rialto. So when he sees, he starts scheming. So he starts scheming in his mind, and he thinks that what he would be doing. So this, at first he thought he won't give him the loan, but then he thinks in his mind that no, this is a good chance to take advantage over his real enemy, and that is Antonio, the rich merchant, who has always been troubling him for so many years now. So this is a good catch. Good. So he says here, you can see that he says, I can once catch him on the hip. So he says, I can once catch him on the hip. So what is catch him on the hip is a kind of idiom. It's an idiom meaning, if Shylock can get hold of Antonio at a disadvantage, or catch him in a weak point or weak spot. So catch him on the hip, the image is taken from wrestling. So when a man wrestles, so if he catches the hip of a person, he is in an advantageous position. So he holds him in a position from which he can throw the person easily to the ground. So Shylock sees this disadvantage of Antonio as his advantage. So angered by his mistreatment at the hands of Venetian Christians, particularly by Antonio, Shylock sees this as a chance to harm Antonio. So he schemes to take revenge, and that is what is shown here. On this thought, Shylock says that I'll catch him on the hip. I will feed fat the ancient grudge I bear him. So what does he mean by feed fat? Means I will ruin him by the ancient grudge, by the age-old grudge, the feelings that he has against him. So he's going to feed fat. He'll dismantle him, or he'll take advantage of his weak spots, and then he'll take over all his assets and then become richer. And this is a one chance he's getting, because the enemy has come to his feet and is begging for money. So this is a chance for Shylock to really harm Antonio, his arch enemy. So in business, of course. So he hates our Jewish nation, and he says that it's because he's giving all the reasons why he hates Antonio, or why he wants to take revenge. So he says, because Antonio hates his Jewish nation, his Jewish people, he lends out money gratis, and he's giving money without any interest. And among the merchants, he rails at me. And when he is in the Rialto, where all the merchants congregate, where all the merchants gather, he rails at me, he shouts at me, he is violent at me and my well earned bargains, and also at my usuries, or also at my earnings, because I work hard and I get gains, and because of those gains he is jealous of me and he shouts at me, which he calls interest. He calls it interest, but that is my hard earned money. This is how I double my money, or I make money. This is the way I get money. So he says it's interest, and it is bad. Now, if you think about this, why Antonio doesn't take interest, the reason is because Christians believe that what money belonged to him, only that money he was supposed to take, and not any interest. So taking interest over and above his own money was sin. Therefore, Christians would not take interest. And so, in those days, they believed that it was a sin, and therefore they should not do it. And so they thought Shylock to be a sinner. Now, cursed be my tribe if I forgive him. As Shylock goes on scheming and thinking and contemplating in his mind, and he says, cursed be my tribe. My race should be cursed if I forgive him for what he has done to me. I am bearing all this now, but I am not going to forgive him. This chance that I am getting, God-given chance is coming to me, and if I forgive him, even I will not be forgiven, for I'll be cursed because of it. Antonio, finding he was musing within himself and did not answer, and being impatient for the money, said, Shylock, do you hear? Will you lend the money? So Antonio saw him thinking, contemplating, musing. So reflecting or thinking in his mind. Musing means reflecting within himself, and understood that he is thinking about something, and then he became impatient. So he was very, very impatient, means he is he wants to, he's restless now, and eagerly desirous to get the money. So he is impatient, and he's calls Shylock. Shylock, do you hear? Are you listening to what we are saying? Will you lend us the money? To this question the Jew replied, Signor Antonio, on the Rialto, many a time and often you have railed at me about my monies and my usuries. So he says, Sir Antonio, this is the address he's addressing Antonio with. He's addressing him nicely right now, because Antonio has come to him, but he has not yet caught him by the hip. So he's telling him that, Sir Antonio, on the Rialto, so where all the merchants gather, where at the Chamber of Commerce, or at our business dealings, where we have the business dealings, our Chamber of Commerce and our stock exchange, many a time and often, many a time, you have railed at me, you shouted at me about my monies, about my, now we can know he's a Jew, so his English is not good. So on his monies, on his gains and his usuries, and I have borne it with a patient shrug. So he is telling that, no, I have always borne it, tolerated it with a patient shrug. I have been tolerating it with a let go attitude, a patient shrug. For sufferance is the badge of all our tribe, because suffering is the badge, is a condition, or is a way of our life, of our Jewish nation, because we are not in our own country. So we are suffering everywhere, wherever we are, we suffer. and it has become like a badge for us. It's always there with us. And then you have called me unbeliever. So you called me an unbeliever. You and this is a like a big bad word for us. So you called me a cutthroat dog. You called me all these names because I take money, I take interest, and according to what you say, and spit upon my Jewish garments. And what do? You throw saliva at me and my Jewish dress, my gabardine or my garments. The Jewish garment that they wear is known as gabardine. So you throw your saliva at my Jewish dress and spurned at me with your foot. So you turn me around with your foot. You put your leg at me, throw your leg, or turn me around with your foot me with your leg and turn me around as if I were a cur, as if I were a dog. Then let's see the next page, which is actually our next the continuation of the paragraph. So what it says, this is the ducat that we already saw, and now he says, so you called me a cur. Well then, it now appears you need my help, and come to me and say, Shylock, lend me monies. Has a dog money? So you come to me, you called me a cur. A cur means a dog. So you come to me and you ask me, money. So has a dog money? You call me dog. You have been calling me dog. You have been calling me all kinds of names. And now today you come to a dog to get money. So Shylock is reminding him all that he used to do to him. So this is the good chance for Shylock to talk to him, because he has been troubling him, harassing him, rebuking him, calling him names, and doing all kinds of things on him. So and he hated him like anything. So and the Christians always persecuted and troubled the Jewish people in Europe. So, is it possible a cur should lend 3,000 ducats? Is it possible for a dog to lend money? Shall I bend low and say, fair sir, you spit upon me on Wednesday last. Another time you called me a dog, and for these courtesies I am to lend you monies. So Shylock is asking him. Shylock has got a very good chance to speak, and he is asking me, sir, shall I become like a beggar or stand in front of you like a servant and bend low and talk in a low voice like a servant is doing, like a slave boy is doing, and say, sir, fair sir, good sir, you spit upon me, you throw your saliva on me. Last Wednesday you did that. And another time you called me a dog. And for these courtesies, all these good things, shall I lend you money? Antonio replied, I am as like to call you so again, to spit on you again, and spurn you too. So Antonio is saying, look, Shylock, I will call you so again. I will do all that I have done to you once again. To spit on you again, I may do that again, and spurn you, and put my foot on you, turn you around. If you will lend me this money, lend it not to me as to a friend. So if you're going to lend me this money, Shylock, do not lend it to me as if you are lending to a friend, but rather lend it to me as to an enemy. Give me the money as you are going to give it to an enemy. That if I break, and that if I really stop paying or break it, or I am not defaulted by default, if I am defaulting it, or I am not going to pay it up, so not going to give it on the right time, you may with better face exact the penalty. You may with with your right, and demand and demand the penalty, the punishment, said Shylock. So Shylock is he's reminding Shylock that, Shylock, don't worry, you can take it from me if I default, if I do not give you the money or return the money on time on that day that you tell me, then you can very well exact the penalty, demand the penalty, the punishment from me. Why, look you, said Shylock, how you storm. Now Shylock is after listening to what he said, he says, look how you storm, look how much you are getting angry. I would be friends with you and have your love. So Shylock is now pretending to be friends with him and says, I will be friends with you and have your love. I will forget the shames you have put upon me. So I will also forget all that you have done to me. I will supply your wants and I'll give you the money that you want and take no interest for my money. And I'm not going to take any interest from you. This seemingly kind of a greatly surprised Antonio. So when Shylock said this all this surprised Antonio. He said, my God, what has happened to this Shylock? Why he is not going to take interest from me? That's surprising. And then Shylock, still pretending kindness and that all he did was to gain Antonio's love, again said he would lend him the 3,000 ducats and take no interest for his money. So Shylock went on pretending that he is very kind and he is going to love and he is loving Antonio. He'll be now friends and is forgiving him for everything he has done, but give him the money and take no interest. Only Antonio should go with him to a lawyer. So what was the condition? Antonio will go with him to a lawyer and there sign in merry sport a bond. So what he has to do? There he has to sign a merry sport a bond. So a fun sport, a bond, he has to sign a bond, an agreement. Bond means an agreement where it will be a kind of a fun sport or it will be a kind of a joke or a jokingly, in a way, in a fun manner, he will give him the money, but he'll write there that if he did not pay the money by a certain day, by the date that they will be specifying, he would forfeit a pound of flesh to be cut off from any part of his body that Shylock pleased. So what did he say? It is a kind of, this is a typical agreement, and in this, according to this agreement, Antonio doesn't have to do anything. It's just like a fun. So in a funny manner or in a joking manner, what he has to do, he has to just agree upon the money that yes, I'm giving the money for 3 months and 3,000 ducats for 3 months, and on this particular day he has to return the money. If he doesn't return the money by that day, so what he has to do, the forfeiture would be a pound of flesh. And from where? From any part of the body of Antonio. So this was agreed, or this was written in the bond. Content, said Antonio. Antonio says, agreed. He is satisfied. He is happy. So he says, happy. I'll do it. I will sign to this bond and say there is much kindness in the Jew. So he says, I'm going to sign upon this bond. So, and I'll say that there is much kindness in the Jew. So he is saying, Bassanio said Antonio should not sign to such a bond for him. But now Bassanio is warning Antonio. He says, please, Antonio, do not sign on such a bond for him. This kind of a bond is not good at all. So you're not going to sign this kind of a bond for me. But still Antonio insisted that he would sign it. But still Antonio said, no, I'll sign it because it is going to be, otherwise we won't get the money that you need for your journey. For that, before the day of payment came, his ships would return. And he was very sure that his ships would return before the day would come. Before the payment day comes, his ships would return laden with many times the value of the money. So whatever money he has to pay Shylock, he'll be getting 9 times more the money that he is through the ships that they will be returning. So Shylock hearing this debate, this discussion, exclaimed, "O Father Abraham, what suspicious people these Christians are." Now he is calling out to God and to Father Abraham. Father Abraham is considered to be the father of the all the races. Means he was the forefather of the races, different races. So even for Christians and Muslims and for the Jewish people, Abraham was considered to be the forefather. As you can see, I'll just show you the three. Here we have the Torah, that the Jews have their Bible. The Jewish Bible is known as the Torah. So this is a Torah that is, they have they read it from scrolls. Bible also was in scrolls, was found in scrolls, and later of course published in as books and all. So this you can see is a scroll, and the Torah, so it's kept here to be read. And here you can see God in the three religion, that is, here you can see the Jewish religious emblem, the Christian and the Muslims emblem, and the three gods. So you have three faith, one God here given, three faiths, one God. So Abraham is considered to be, Abraham and God's mutual faith. So Abraham is considered to be the forefathers of these three races, three faiths. Okay, so here in the story we see here he is calling out to Abraham, "Oh Father Abraham, what suspicious people these Christians are. Oh, these people are so doubtful. Their own hard dealings, their own hard ways or behavior, teach them to suspect the thoughts of others, teach them to doubt others. So I pray you tell me this, Bassanio, if he should break his day, what should I gain by the exaction of the forfeiture?" So he's asking Bassanio, if suppose this man, Antonio, breaks his day means he defaults or he doesn't pay up my money. So what am I going to get? I won't get my money either. I won't get anything. And what will I get from the exaction, from the taking away of flesh, which will be the forfeiture instead of my money? A pound of man's flesh taken from a man is not so estimable. So a pound of a man's flesh taken from a man, a flesh from a man's flesh, okay, now is not estimable, is not valuable, nor profitable. So it is not at all profitable. It doesn't, we do not get any gain out of it, neither as the flesh of mutton or of beef. So he says mutton or beef is sold and people get money instead of it. But a man's flesh, nobody will want and no money will be given for that. So what is the use of it? It's just there. So I won't be getting anything. I won't get even my money back and I won't get anything out of this flesh. So what is the use of it? To buy his favor. And why am I doing this? Just to get his favor, just to get his love. I offer this friendship, and this is a kind of friendship I am offering him. If he will take it, so if not, adieu. If he takes my friendship, it's good, so it is good. But if not, if he doesn't take my friendship, adieu, bye-bye. I don't want it. Okay, it's okay. It's okay, I don't want it. So at last, against the advice of Bassanio, who, notwithstanding all the Jew has said of his kind intentions, did not like his friend should run the hazard of this shocking penalty for his sake, Antonio signed the bond, thinking it really was. Now I'll read it from the next page. Penalty for his sake, Antonio signed the bond, thinking it really was, as the Jew said, merely in sport. So we'll do till there. So it says here, at last, against the advice of Bassanio, even when Bassanio was telling him not to do so, notwithstanding all that, not considering the advice of Bassanio, all the Jew had said of his kind intention, and all that the Jew, not taking into consideration to take such risks. So he did not like his friend should run the hazard of this shocking penalty for his sake. So he said that it's a ruthless penalty and Antonio should not sign that. But Antonio is readily agreeing, and he signed the bond thinking it really was a merry sport. So he was thinking it to be a merry means happy, fun filled sport. It was like a sport that he is signing a small agreement, and it is for his all for his beloved friend. So children, we end it up here. I hope you have understood this, and I hope you enjoyed the story. We'll continue in the next class. Till then, thank you.